Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of South Park, Doubling Down. And I thought this episode was okay. I felt that this was more of a setup episode, like a part 1 that needs a part 2. Because I was interested to see what they were doing with Heidi and Cartman's relationship with introducing Kyle into the mix. And I understand that they were trying to draw more attention to that relationship by showing the stuff with, like, Garrison and his advisors and his administration. So, it starts off and we see that Heidi is just, like, sitting in bed, and then she gets a call from Cartman, and he's crying and everything, and they had evidently kind of, like, broken up, and he's like, I'll be vegan with you, and all that kind of stuff, starts blaming his mom and yelling at her and all that stuff, and of course, he says he'll do anything to get themselves back together, which I think is pretty much just Cartman trying to control. His whole thing is like control. If it ends, he wants to end it. And that's pretty much, Heidi's pretty much been breaking up with him most of the time, at least since the first initial time that Cartman tried to break up with her. So, of course, he gets into school, and he's got the tofu stuff, and he's pissed off, and he's ranting at it about the guys, and of course, she comes over and says, hey, why don't we eat together so I can walk you through what I packed for you? And he's like, sure, great. So he goes off, and Kyle's like, don't you think we should do something about this? We're all kind of involved in this kind of thing, and all that. And everyone's like, no, just leave it, Kyle, whatever. So, of course, they're doing their thing. Kyle is like, trying to figure out what's going on with, like, Cartman and Heidi. He thinks that, like, he is, like, a horrendous boyfriend to her, and of course he is, but she just keeps going along with it. So, we then get to see that Cartman is, like, trying to embrace the vegan kind of stuff, and is introducing Heidi to Beyond KFC, which is, like, a Beyond kind of, like, meat kind of stuff, but it's just KFC with Beyond written on it, and he's pretty much trying to turn her into a non-vegan without her knowing it. And seeing Cartman kind of, like, dealing with it and, like, say, oh, making fun of her for gaining weight by eating the food that he wants to eat. Like, she's like, I don't feel good from that Beyond Arby's kind of stuff. And him getting a frickin' drum to be like, boom, 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 here she comes, and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of the one part where Kyle gets fed up and like, listen, we gotta do something. Okay. So he goes and kind of talks with the girls. He like goes up with his hands up and everything. He's like, listen. And he tries to like make, he tries to make it so that he doesn't try to offend anyone and just pretty much sounds like completely crazy. Like, yeah, not all of you are hot, but you're hot on the inside. If anybody could see the inside, oh, god damn it. And he's just trying to figure it out. I was like, listen. I think you need to stop, like, telling her that this is not a good idea, because he was talking to Heidi, and he tried to, like, bring it up, and she's like, no, everything's fine, and she kind of, like, dug in even more, that I don't need people to tell me you told you so, and all that kind of stuff. So Kyle was trying to get out in front of that a little bit more with the rest of the girls, because they're pretty much ragging on her all the time, like, how can you go out with Eric Cartman? And, of course, that just makes her double down and hunker down even more, and it's interesting seeing that's the focal point, and that was a pretty good job of what they were doing within the episode. It's like, yeah, sometimes if you make it and just keep hammering home on someone like that, they will just entrench themselves no matter what and die on that hill for no good reason. Sometimes you gotta be like, okay, are you alright? Alright, let it go. Of course, that's not what happens. So, they get to the point where, like, Kyle is able to actually, like, talk Heidi out of dating Cartman and actually starts dating Kyle instead, because he's listening to her and all that kind of stuff, and he's not being like the I told you so kind of stuff with the girls. And this, of course, sets Eric off, and of course, he like gets to Token's house. He's like, I want to disrespect the flag and all that kind of stuff. He's like, what? And this is just getting to Cartman stereotyping everyone and not understanding stuff, and thinking that, like, Token and his family regularly disrespect the flag. And it's like, yes, Cartman, because you don't understand the situation and you just want to do what you want to do because you're mad and you're pissed off that your girlfriend broke up with you. And it's funny because Token's mom lets him come in when Token's like, no, do not do this. No. And then, of course, they're like talking about it on the soup, and Cartman's like, I don't want soup. And, of course, Token's dad brings up that Heidi is going out with Kyle. And then we get this funny ass sequence where Cartman's just like crazy, and he starts off lighting the flag on fire because of how pissed off he is that Kyle took his girlfriend. Is like, okay. And then seeing it kind of like this weird kind of nightmarish, reminded me of like a Disney kind of thing with like Kyle and Cartman's trying to like run away with Heidi and all that stuff, but like Kyle's the evil villain then. He's like, Kyle! And it's like, oh god, this is what we've been waiting for the whole setup. It's like, how's this gonna work? So of course, since Kyle and Heidi are now going out, Heidi then rejoins the girls, and of course, what happens? They just completely rag on her for having Cartman as a boyfriend, saying that, oh god, we thought you'd get married. And of course, this pisses her off completely, and she just goes back to kind of talking with Cartman, and Cartman then talks with her and says, I'm going to reveal the whole truth to you. It's like, okay, Cartman, what are you doing? So, of course, Kyle's getting ready for a date with Heidi, and, of course, comes down, and she's like, oh, don't worry. It's not my fault that I'm feeling this way and all that stuff. It's your fault. And essentially saying that I'm Irish and I have my certain things, and without saying much, pretty much saying that it was Kyle's fault for being a Jew. And Kyle, after she like pretty much breaks up with him and goes outside and is like holding hands with Cartman having his victory smile, Kyle's like, did she just call me a Kyle's like, did she just call me a dirty Jew? A like sneaky Jew kind of thing? And I'm like, oh god. Cartman has now pushed his like stupid beliefs onto her and pretty much is getting her to be anti-Semitic. And it's like, oh shit. And I'm like, how's Kyle going to retaliate with this? I'm interested to see how this war is going to be going, because I didn't know where exactly they were going to take the whole Cartman and Heidi relationship. I'm glad that they've had it throughout the season. This, I'm interested to see how they kind of like, if Kyle goes on the offensive, what he does, or if he's like, you know what? Screw Heidi. If she wants to deal with that asshole, fine. It'll just keep blowing up, and something will happen, and either she will finally break free of him, or Cartman will get her into such a situation that she will then become his mother, pretty much. Or she'll piss him off to the point that he will probably kill her. This is Cartman we're talking about. That's his kind of control thing. So, that opened up some interesting possibilities, and I can't wait to see kind of where this is going to be ending throughout the rest of the season. Then, of course, we get to the kind of like Garrison thing with all of his advisors. We get Pence, Ryan, and McConnell, and this also mirrored the more relationship thing, because at first I'm like, where are they going to take this? And I'm like, oh, okay, kind of like an abusive relationship, because they're saying they're trying to put their foot down with Garrison and all this stuff because he fucked a dude to death. He did it that way, and trying to get him to fix the Niger's situation, and him just completely making it worse and worse, and just completely fucking with them, where we see Ryan freaking with a black eye and everything, and explaining like it. He's like, is that semen on your face? No, that's doorknob cum. And it's like, oh Jesus. And they're trying to figure out ways to like undermine Garrison and all that with like the polls and everything, but they're all three trying to make sure that they don't get fucked over by him, and it's just like, holy shit. Just, okay, I didn't mind this bit, but it then took away from more advancement that could have been done with the Kyle versus Cartman kind of thing with Heidi. And it was just like, I don't think it was horribly executed, but whenever I was watching it, I was like, why is this even here? Except for like some little callbacks like, hey, they're the member berries again. And Garrison's just like, you shut up. And that's about it. I didn't hate what they did with it, but I didn't love what they did with it. There could have been something more, and it's just like, okay, more resources could have been devoted to like either the beginning of the war between Kyle and Cartman on this front with Heidi, or I don't know, just some other storyline that better tied in with that. So, I think that that's my biggest kind of like a gripe is just the B storyline just really didn't need to be there. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.